Into the secret to oneness and the Shema. The Shema being this mantra meditation, this prayer that we say multiple times a day that has so much power, which we're going to jump into. And it's also oftentimes the last thing recited before someone were to pass away. And the idea is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad. So Hashem, the Yud Ke Vav Ke, the Shem Havaya, the Tetragrammaton, represents this ultimate unification, this ultimate oneness above nature. And Elokeinu is tied numerically, the gematria is Hateva, which is nature. So understanding the permutations of Hashem's name, but also when we're saying Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad, it's really saying that these two names that signify the different way we relate to God, also that Hashem echad, that these two names are actually one. So it's only our own perception that are viewing them as different, and that these different ways in which we interact or feel that we're being interacted with God is on us. But really, it's all the same. And when we could tap into that oneness and that understanding that it's all the same, then we can move beyond the constriction or the constricted consciousness and all of the different judgments and all the different things that hold us and stress us out and bring anxiety in this world, and move toward the space that is actually above the finite and the physical into the spiritual space, into the spirit, and tap into the soul and the infinite and the limitless possibilities that are actually there waiting for us. So right now we're in my 5th book. Let me know if you can't hear me, because sometimes there's sound issues on Instagram. So we're in my 5th book in the Light of the Infinite series. You can see book number 5. This one's called Emanations of Illumination. We're in the chapter The Secret to Oneness and the Shema for the Torah portion of Va'et Hanan. This Torah shall not be removed from your mouth. Right? So this is bringing a quote. And Rabbi Yochanan, so these are the biggest rabbis of our time, thousands of years ago, in the Talmud, in the Gemara. So Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that even if a person would just recite the Shema prayer that we're talking about in the morning and the evening, they fulfill the mitzvah, the commandment of not removing the Torah from one's mouth. The lesson is that if you fall short of your goal, you have to focus on the good that you have done, because you're only expected to do as much as you can, given where you started from. If you do that, it's as if you've fulfilled the entire Torah. I remember learning the power of the Shema, which we're going to go into how we say it as a little kid. It felt like I was in this world of Harry Potter, and someone had clued me into the Patronus charm, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but so if I put myself into a deep enough spiritual space, I would be able to conjure up this protective power from this universe of Harry Potter. The Shema was a way to channel Hashem, God's oneness, into the world. I could say it and manifest magic in my own life. It was a pathway from the natural world I was in into the supernatural world that my kid mind had dreamt up. Growing up as a Yemenite Jew, I learned to form my hand into shin, the first letter of the Shema, by placing my thumb and pinky together, leaving my index, middle, and ring finger upright. Once I had this formation, I would close my eyes and place my pinky on the left eye and my thumb on the right. As I got to the last word of the Shema for echad, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad, I would bring all fingers together, forming one unit and a sort of daled, the last letter of echad, and then you kiss your fingers, raise them to the heavens. It was a powerful ritual, one of connection and transcendence. The Shema is the climactic praise, prayer, and mantra that centers us in the morning and evening prayers. It's been at the center of Judaism and the lives of Jews since Moses said the words to the children of Israel in the desert thousands of years ago. It took on new levels of meaning when formal tefillah prayers replaced the sacrifices after the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed by the Babylonians in 70 CE. It is the climax of the final Ne'ilah prayer on Yom Kippur, and it compromises a person's last words on earth. The Shema has been echoing through Jewish generations for millennia. Its Kabbalistic powers, potent with the preservation of a nation that introduced monotheism into the world. The sacred phrase invokes the oneness behind and within all of creation. In this week's Torah portion of Va'et Hanan, we read the Shema, which we said before, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. You shall love yourself, the Lord your God, with You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. The Zohar teaches that affirming Hashem, Adonai and Elokeinu, the center of the Shema, is the general principle of all written and oral Torah, and the foundation of all the mitzvot, the commandments. The Mitzvah Rebbe, Dov Ber Schneerson, elaborates that all of the Torah and mitzvot are included in the unity of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His presence in the world, which are the two names Hashem and His title Elokim. The word Hashem literally means the name and is a placeholder for the Havayah, as it was pronounced back when the temple stood. The name itself is actually a combination of three words: Haya, past; Hoveh, present; and Yihiyeh, the future tense. Chazal, our sages, teach that this name describes God as a power that transcends the boundaries of time. From Hashem's perspective, past, present, and future are experienced all at once, because God is, of course, beyond the limitations of time. The Shema is a meditation manifested from this concept, revealing the reality that the Infinite One is beyond the boundaries of nature, and of course this includes time. When we recite this verse in prayer, we say it as an undertone: Baruch Shem Kavodo Malchuto L'Olam Va'ed. Blessed be the name of the glory of His kingdom forever and ever. These two verses, Shema and Baruch Shem, are called Yehuda Ilah, the upper unity, and Yehuda Tata, the lower unity. And the Zohar teaches that these two aspects of Hashem's unity are paradoxically beyond the world while simultaneously filling the world. Something that the Alter Rebbe talks about in the Tanya very often, and where we're at right now if you're doing daily Tanya. The first word, Shema Yisrael, are the key concepts prior to going into the permutations of Hashem's name. Shema meaning hear or understand, as it's introducing a reflection, a meditation. The word Yisrael is a second name given to Yaakov, to Jacob. Chazal teach that the two names Yaakov and Yisrael represent two different spiritual levels. The name Yaakov, derived from the word heel, describes a state of constriction imposed by the outside world. Yisrael is made up of the words master and head, and represent the mindset of being masters over our own environments, learning to not be led or controlled by them. The Sfirot, the tree of life in Kabbalah, teaches us about the upper and lower worlds of existence, but they also represent a person's existence from head to toe. Each aspect of the Sfirot correlates to a physical element within a spiritual one. The word Shema Yisrael are meant to serve as a reflection on rising to the level of Yisrael from heel, ekev, to head, rosh. Kabbalistically, from malchut to keter, moving up the Sfirot. Each time we say these words, we are reminding ourselves that we do not have to be a victim of our own environment and circumstances. We can rise above nature by connecting to the supernatural, the light of the infinite. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the Shema and Baruch Shem contain a total of 12 words, paralleling the 12 tribes of Israel, who parallel the Malchut of holiness. The 12 words contain 49 letters, which parallel the 49 letters in the names of the 12 tribes. When you recite these verses with all your heart and soul, you include yourself in the Malchut of holiness, and push away the Sitra Achra, the other side, impurity, which attempts to distance us, each of us, from holiness. Further in the Shema, it touches on matters of the heart, as we covered in Parashat Shalach, from which the third paragraph of the Shema originates. We read again about one's heart finding strength in servitude. We also learn here about tzitzit, which many Jews kiss as they recite the Shema. It reads as follows: Speak to the Israelites and have them make tassels on the corner of their garments for all generations. And when you see them, you shall remember all of God's commandments so as to keep them. You will then not stray after your hearts and eyes, which in the past have led you to immorality. In the verse above and in the Shema, you may have noticed when it says heart, livavchem, it's actually plural, hearts. Each person has two conflicting inclinations to which the two hearts in this verse allude. We all have the Yetzer HaTov, the godly soul that wants to connect to the Creator, and we have the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul, the part that is tied to the physical, connected to the finite, wanting to immerse itself in all the pleasures of this world. The word livavcha, your heart, is also spelled with two vet, instead of one, signifying our two inclinations as well, and teaching that both can be used in the service of Hashem, God, subduing the urges of the evil inclination following the desire of the good inclination, bringing peace between these two forces. The Hebrew word for world is olam, which etymologically is related to ne'elem or he'elem, meaning concealment. Our bodies and the Sitra Achra find pleasure in conquering this world, but the Yetzer HaTov reaches beyond this world of concealment and only wants to unify with the truth, to elevate the concealing darkness by revealing the light within it. Rabbi Chaim Vital wrote in Shar HaKedusha that every Jew possesses two souls. As it says in Isaiah and the Neshamot, the souls which I have made. The Tanya teaches that one soul originates from the klipa, the shell or the peel that conceals godliness. Just as the peel conceals the fruit, Hashem, God, conceals the godly life force within the shell of everything in creation. The other soul originates from the Sitra Achra, the side of creation that opposes holiness. Our task is to unify our hearts and souls to serve Hashem, God, with both our Yetzer HaTov and Yetzer Hara, to make our animal soul subservient to our godly soul. As we walk through life, we have a choice which soul we can tap into. For example, our animal soul can use sex to try and satiate lust, or our godly soul can use it to connect with our partner and ultimately emulate Hashem, God, by creating life itself. We can eat food in a similar fashion to others, or to other creatures, or we can elevate the food by meditating on it, saying a blessing, and realizing how incredible it is to be able to have what we need, use the strength of the food and that it gives us to continuously connect and learn and inspire others, all to bring light and truth into the olam, into the world, pushing away he'elem bit by bit, which is the concealment. The Shema is a moment to pause during the rest of tefillah, prayer, and prior to the Shemona Esrei, the 18 benedictions, the silent prayer, or the Amidah, to really connect to the Infinite One. On the level of dvekut, of this intimate closeness, this desire to cleave to our source. The root of dvekut is devek, which means glue. The idea is to adhere oneself to God and not to attributes, which are only divine titles in relation to the world. Normally we relate to these other attributes because they are how we attempt to grasp Hashem, God, as we go about our daily activities. But at the moment of the Shema, we are trying to get as close as possible to this ineffable existence. The Mittler Rebbe teaches that if each person sets his heart, his spirit, and his soul to him, to God, he will be gathered onto him. Through total investment in his soul into the oneness of Hashem. As the Zohar describes, by doing this, a spirit awakens a spirit and draws forth a spirit. If the person puts their entire heart and soul into the recital of the Shema, then they will radiate with new light during the Shemona Esrei. So it's basically we're going through Psukei Dazimra, the Korbanot, and then moving through all of these tefillot, moving to this Shema meditation, this prayer, and then to Shemona Esrei. And the Alter Rebbe in Tanya describes the Shema prayer that we're talking about now, that the connection is so high that a Benoni, that someone who's the in-betweener, can mistake themselves as a tzaddik because their evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara that we're talking about, can be vanquished at this point of the Shema, and they can mistake themselves for a tzaddik, for the highest person. So that's just to illustrate the power of the Shema and how we can tap in and align with Hashem at that time. Shema is a moment to get lost in love, but on a greater level than Ahava, love on this level of dvekut that we're talking about, clinging to Hashem. Rabbi Nachman teaches that the mitzvah of loving God is the root of all the positive commandments, because when a person acts honestly out of love, it causes the holy name to be beloved and brings out the desire to fulfill all of the mitzvot, the commandments. Rambam in Hilchot Tshuva expounds on the mitzvah of loving Hashem, God, and writes, the proper love is that one should love Hashem with all the greatest love, the strongest, to the extent that his soul is bound up in the love of Hashem, and the person thinks of this constantly, as if he is sick with love, which Shlomo HaMelech as well talks about. Where his mind is not free of the love of a woman, and he thinks of her constantly, whether he sits or gets up, or whether he's eating and drinking. More than this should be the love of Hashem in the hearts of those who love him, who think of their love always as he commanded us, with all your heart and with all your soul, as King Shlomo articulated, for I am sick with love. The Dubno Magid, a disciple of the Baal Shem Tov, gives an analogy where a certain villager brought a garment back to the tailor, who made it and screamed that it was the wrong size. The tailor looked at the villager and burst out laughing. The villager had put on the new garment on top of his old tattered suit. The same is true with love. Love can only fill the space in a pure heart. If a person's heart is filled with dirt, they cannot fill it with love. This is what Chazal said in Sifri. Do you not know how to love? It states, these words shall be on your heart. This means that you actually have to make a place in your heart for these words, clearing away the tumah, the spiritual impurity, and the droz of the sitra achra, the other side, the side that opposes holiness. This action is the one to fill your soul and to bring you to the taste of this supernal love that we're talking about, that the Rambam is talking about, that King Melech Shlomo, King Solomon, had talked about so often. Closing one's eyes to the physical world and tapping into the dveikut, clinging to this oneness in this Shema meditation, is what's needed to connect to what is beyond our purview. To pursue a real connection with the divine, it's essential that we pause from our constant battle against time and reflect on what is beyond time. The proclamation of the Shema and Hashem's oneness is meant to be a reminder that all is God, so all is good. Our task is to put emunah, faith, and bitachon, trust in the truth of the Shema and the Baruch Shem, to release control that we think we have and sing out that all is in the hands of the Infinite One, except our love of the Infinite One, which is left to each of us to recite with all our hearts, with all our souls, and with all our might. Love you guys. Shabbat Shalom.